Brunsdon Studio. How you guys doing?
Good, mate.
Website, your motivation is to leave things better than you found them. Maybe you can talk us through a little bit of how you approach that and how you measure that and execute that within your projects.
Yeah, sure. That's it was a little statement we found about 2 years ago, and we just thought it was almost like a way you'd explain it to a child. Like how do you approach work? And it's just a great kind of like checkpoint for us when we take jobs on to kind of go, like, are we actually adding value here? Are we making things better? Is it worth us being here? If we can make a difference, let's make a difference. If we can't, then, maybe we need to step away and let someone else have a go, or, actually use our ability to choose to try and make things better.
Yeah, nice. And when did you guys start then, the practice? How was the beginning?
The practice started, what are we now? Probably 10 years ago. It's had a few iterations. The latest one is this one. And, we've just kind of recently pivoted from just being my name to being Brunsdon Studio to try and, to reflect the fact that, we're many voices working as a sort of agency studio together, collaborating with different people. But yeah, 10 years we've been around. It's been a fun 10 years. There's been a lot of interesting things happening, but this period now and how we're moving forward is where I think we've really kind of found our stride and our confidence and really excited about what's coming.
No, awesome. And with your sustainability mission, then how did you find that challenging? But like being within as architects and obviously building things, making things, how do you approach your projects in terms of from an A to Z perspective? Like what is the sort of filters you use or approaches that you use to ensure that the projects are to your desired ideas from a environmental perspective?
Yeah, sure. And I think maybe just to set a bit of a scene here, because it feels like I'm jumping in and answering all the questions. So I'm an architect. Ollie is not an architect. Ollie's our general manager. I'm the creative director.
I actually normally say that everywhere I go. I am not an architect.
But yeah, Ollie's role, and I think what's been great about being a potato head is just seeing, it takes everyone to push the mission forward, right? And the reason we brought Ollie in is because, in essence, as an architecture practice, we're also like a content company. We're producing things that we think are important. They need to be talked about, they need to be understood, and need to be wrapped up in a story and a messaging and, put out there because that's, we believe in what we do, and we think people need to know about that. So Ollie is here, firstly because she's got great business acumen, and secondly because her background is marketing and communications, and she just helps settle everything down and make sure that we understand what we're doing there, and so that it doesn't get boring talking to people like me where I just go into big nerdy technical details and stuff like that. But
that's also part of the business process about, Nic will go into the details of the design and how we make sure that people understand that kind of sustainable angle and make sure, that the projects are approached with integrity and doing things the right way. But I think there's like a wider lens on what we do and that approach to business and like I'm sure we'll talk about it in a minute, but like the B Corp certification and why that's important and why people should know about that. It's the same as what you guys are doing, right? It's kind of that interesting pivotal moment that we've hit in the world where if you're practicing and you're doing things well, then it's important that that is infiltrated from the maximum level right through to the product that you're making or the house that someone's building or the hotel that, they've commissioned Nic to do or whatever it might be. So that message starts from the top, but it also starts from the ground up in our studio as well, which is kind of quite cool.
But back to the original question, which was, how do we make sure these things stick with what we do? And I think it's a nice way of kind of setting the conversation off is that, we actually kind of quite deliberately went through a B Corp certification process, which I know that Potato Head is, and that's how we found each other. It's like, we're B Corp, you're B Corp, let's be friends. And what it does or did for us was that it set like a fallback position where we can't be pushed beyond a certain set of, ways of working because otherwise we'd lose our certification. They're things we believe in and just gives us that kind of confidence when we're negotiating or talking to clients or builders or setting briefs that, these are things we believe in. We can't move off this, but also, we're sort of putting a flag in the ground and saying, these are the things we believe in, do you want to work with us and come with us on this journey together?
Fantastic. So you use that as a bit of a case study to through the B Corp specific needs that you need to deliver to get certified. You use that as a way of kind of looking into all the different elements that you need to sort of get to a sustainable area, and then sort of say to the client, well, if you want to work with us, you have to follow this because this is what we do, you know. And do most people come to you now because of the B Corp and because of the sustainability side, or is it a bit of a mix?
Do you know, it's interesting. I think I'm a good one to comment on that because I can be objective to what Nic does. And it was one of those situations where Nic is very well known for his sustainable approaches and the materials that he uses, and his designs kind of, am I allowed to use the word scream? Is that an okay word? Like they scream sustainability. When you look at them, they feel like that. That's kind of the world you go into because it's the materials that are being used, the colours, the landscaping, the angles, the building lines. It all is already there, and it feels like it was already there. Like that's what's, as Nic, as the principal and creative director of the studio, it's like that is what has created Brunsdon Studio. Like that's the essence of it. So I think the B Corp thing was cool and it was great, and it was a good way to like kind of put a stamp in the work that was being done. But I think you were already doing it. To be honest.
I think the better thing is it's similar. We've just loved all the synergies being here at Potato Head, and just finding the way you're doing things is really just like lovely and reassuring for the way that we're doing things. And that, you know, I was just saying before that I think it's like, you know, it's doing the right thing, but it's not beating you over the head with it. It meets you at the level you want to meet with, you know. So like in all our projects, you know, you can be in it and be, oh, it's a beautiful space and it feels nice. But if you want the deeper story, we can go to the deeper story. And that's what Potato Head has, I think, which, you know, if there's multiple points of entry, you can come here and just have a great time sitting by the pool. Or you can kind of go, oh, why are my slippers made like that? Or, you know, why does the tissue box look a bit weird? Or, you know, and then kind of go on the deeper dive and the deeper journey, which I think that's, you know, there was a time when sustainability was, you know, very much like kind of hippies and in your face and felt very like kind of niche and, you know, periphery to general normal practice. But I think where we are, and I think where you are, is that once you bring those things into just an ethical model and pair it with great design, then that's when magic happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think for us, it's definitely, we want to lead with great experience, great design, great time, you know, open to everybody. And then, as you say, some people do look at it a little bit deeper and go, wow, okay, and sort of discover it. We're not shouting from the rooftops. It's not a preachy thing. It's just as humans, we feel the need to take care of our planet and have a good time in the process, you know. So yeah, we definitely, your point on the kind of the old sustainability model, which was a bit, you know, you had to sort of compromise, a bit of a downgrade, and we're trying to show actually you don't need a downgrade, you can actually upgrade by using these beautiful natural materials or recycled materials, or, you know, looking at your waste streams and getting creative with that. So yeah, we feel like a lot of people come here, get really inspired, and a lot of people really get into it after that, or they just say, okay, it's a cool thing, and they leave and they're not particularly interested in it, and that's fine, you know.
Yeah, my friend's got this concept where in architecture we do these things called demolition plans, where, you know, you've got a project and you show, you know, the things you're knocking out to then build the new thing. And she was saying we should start calling demolition plans material redeployment plans. So instead of just like it becomes a dash red line that disappears into the ether, it's actually like, if that's going somewhere, you know, the whole, you know, waste has value. Like, you know, so what's the plan with the thing you're taking away? How does it get its second, third life?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of, that opens up unique opportunities as well for design, you know. Like we had a bunch of bricks that were left over from the construction, ended up, you know, using that in the store, like in a different way, mixed in like a terrazzo, and
then looks amazing.
Beautiful material that wasn't available before. And we're like, cool, there's a material there to be used, surplus material. Rather than landfilling it, let's turn it into a beautiful tile, which is unique to the property, you know.
But that's also like your bringing back, like, you know, almost forgotten crafts. You know, like that's what terrazzo was. Terrazzo was, you know, a kind of a poorer building material, because when you couldn't afford marble or, you know, stone, so you just took concrete and threw whatever aggregate you could find in it to make something, you know, that looked kind of interesting. But now, you know, it's elevated, it looks great, and it's kind of, you know, it now tells that great, you know, resource story.
Absolutely, yeah.
We didn't always throw things away. That's like a new thing.
Yeah.
It's definitely a new culture thing.
Absolutely.
I'm done. See ya.
it's crazy when you think about it, right? We all have homes, and then we just chuck everything in this bag and just think that someone's going to take
disappears.
care of it.
That.
Yeah.
It's quite a crazy concept when you think. I think we'll look back in like 100 years and go, "Wow, I can't believe like we did that."
Yeah.
People did that, and we threw it in the ground.
Yeah.
We dug a deep hole, put it in there, burned it, or put it in the ocean. Just no one did anything about it. It's so crazy.
So crazy.
We're gonna look like the biggest weirdos.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. But as you can see here, this is all destined for landfill waste, which we've turned into a radio station.
Yeah.
So it's endless what you can do with it.
Well, and I think we had an initial call with your team, and it was just, it was so funny hearing about, I was asking what's the head of architecture doing at the moment. Like, they're opening a rubbish dump. I was like, oh, okay. Because, when you make a decision.
I think it's called the Waste Centre.
The Waste Centre, rubbish dump. Yeah, the Waste Centre.
It's like when community waste project is
there you go. Community waste project.
Thanks, Dan.
The much better way to put
a
it.
few iterations, but
Okay.
settled on the simple name, calling it what it is.
Yeah, I love. The head of architecture is doing the community waste project, which is like when we're fully committed to this cause, like we have to see it through from at start to end. So it's the whole. Again, we're 97.5 or whatever you are, 98.6% diverted from landfill. Yeah. But then what happens to the stuff that actually goes to landfill? And that's actually taking care of that last little piece too, which is super interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And for us, it's like building the blueprint here within what we can control within our own Desa, within our village here. And next, it's like, okay, how do we change the whole island,
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, let's gather all of the other businesses, get together, bring everybody together as one, all the different beach clubs and hotels and restaurants that are on board, and creating our own waste facility where we can actually see where our waste's going, do something with it, bring it back in as amenities, and build that closed loop system and offer that blueprint to anybody that wants to copy.
Do you know, it's interesting that you talk about that, because that's another parallel, and I think that's where that you're meeting the right people. That's another parallel that kind of we can draw with what we do and what you're doing. Like we have a division of our studio which is research and insights, and we produce these research and insights papers. And when I joined the studio, there was like all this wonderful work that had been done by our team there. And I was like, wow, so what, you just produce these papers and share this knowledge with people just because? And it was like, wow, that's an incredible thing to do. That when you have the ability or the opportunity to be able to delve into these really important issues, and for us, it's like design, travel, tourism, hospitality, any of the areas that we're working in. If you can bring together those information pieces or those education pieces and willingly share them with the community, that's what's going to change the world. Like if you hold on, and it's your favorite saying,
do it.
A rising tide lifts all boats. That's the way to look at it. If we can continue to share our findings and the way to do things better with no ego, then that's what's going to make the difference.
I completely agree.
Yeah, and the research papers are really about, finding there are pockets of excellence everywhere, but there's no one kind of talks to each other or works out, what did you learn? What did you learn? What did you learn? So our idea there is to try and draw a ring around it and go all of you people are doing amazing stuff, and here this is a little bit of this and there's a little bit of this, and just try to kind of make this thing that makes sense, that kind of wraps all that together and ties a bow around it, and then whoever is curious or interested can pick it up and read and hopefully set some parameters and benchmarks, and at least sort of spark some ideas on how they might approach whatever their project or what they're thinking about.
Yeah, and I think bringing people together from unexpected places and letting them just we have such a diverse group of people that either stay with us or work with us. It's from all different walks of life, from different disciplines, and it really opens up some unique ideas,
Yeah, that's where the magic happens.
That's where the magic happens, and often they just come from conversation like this. Someone's making ethanol from waste, and then we have an artist here, and we start getting ideas, and it's let's make a gas station, and just stuff like that. How it happens all the time here, and it's great becoming a platform for that, where we can have studios like yourselves and all different sorts of thinkers and makers and people from local craft, people building technology and machines, and it opens up some really fascinating ideas, and we're trying to implement whatever we can.
How much more fun is doing it that way than going to IKEA or going to the big market hall and picking up the mass-produced stuff from Taiwan or wherever? It's such a that's it. That's creativity. Creativity, great design changes the world.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at. And, but it's also having the environment that is open to it and allows it. And, like we heard that your eco champion was a bartender who just had an idea and was supported in that. Now he's got a team of 18 people working for him, just innovating.
Exactly. He's
incredible.
New solutions, building chairs from waste and building a community waste project and all sorts of different things.
So cool.
It's fantastic. And that's what's great about being part of this company. You see everybody grow. And I started in 2014. And I've just seen everybody blossom and create departments, roles for themselves, and it's really great. And credit to Ronald, the founder, and the team here who facilitated it all. It's really great to be part of. Yeah,
it's awesome. So impressive.
And so your design philosophy then, let's maybe dive a little bit into your principles and how you approach projects from a design perspective. Give us a little bit of insight into how you take on things and look at it that way.
Sure. It's hard. It's a hard thing to answer. So it's my own. I don't know. Was it sense of curiosity or just fear of getting bored that we don't kind of have a full niche. We don't do one thing. We kind of do many things and try and bring learnings from all those things across into each other. So we do multi-residential housing, we do single houses, we do social houses, we do tourism projects, we do cultural works, we do civic works. Have I missed anything? I don't think so.
No. Maybe talk about your favourites.
Yeah, and so, but the thing is that, there's no house style. We don't, it's not like you're not hiring the studio because I have an author's brush and, you can see it and go, that's a Nic Brunsdon, that's a Brunsdon Studio thing. We, a couple of years ago, very deliberately made the pivot to go sort of away from being a production factory, like an architecture studio that produces architecture, to be a design studio that produces strategy that sometimes produces architecture. So really leaning into the thinking, and that's where the research and insights piece comes from. So, some of the things we just had, we just won the National Gallery of Victoria competition. They have a yearly architecture commission out the back, and we did a giant, a 15-metre inflatable sphere that we've never done, never done inflatables before, but that's just, and so that just got recycled into ottomans.
I always want to do inflatable. It's on my list of things that
I can tell you don't want to do an inflatable.
Let's do one. Let's go and get some seaweed and do one.
Cool, good idea. No, and you do one once, much easier the second time. But quickly on that. So that was a commentary on breathing and COVID and just trying to think of something. What is the connective tissue between humanity? What's the thing, apart from race, age, demographics, gender, what is the thing as humanity we all share? And that's air, breathing, our breath, subconscious system of just, I've said it and now we're all thinking it, it happens and we think about it. So this was how do we make air present? And the size of it is the size of the volume of air that one human consumes in 1 year. And the sphere breathes in and out and blows air over the garden and you feel it and it inflates itself back up and, just kind of has this lovely kind of cadence and moves around. And, we're doing that at the same time as we're doing social housing projects in Perth and, tourism projects up here in Indonesia. So it's, the philosophy is really, is guided by the things we've talked about. We're B Corp certified. We've got reconciliation action plan, which is, pretty important to us in Australia and we think can actually kind of have importance here up in Indonesia as well, care for country and communities and respect for, the people that have gone before us. Sustainability action plan that's tied to our B Corp. And then, exactly what we've done with Potato Head, just good design wraps a bow around the whole thing. And, that's how you create great experiences and memorable moments.
Yeah, nice. And how do you approach the materiality aspect in terms of, do you look at the local side? I know you're working with a lot of recycled materials as well. How do you usually approach that side? That's
still emerging. That's something we looked at for a long time. I said kind of that architecture or in sustainability is, basically 95% getting the first moves right. In Australia it's, and in Western Australia where we are, it's, we've got a Mediterranean climate, great north light. So you get, pushed to the southern boundaries, get short plans, cross ventilation, nice thermal mass, all the kind of simple things. But then we really started auditing everything we're specifying and starting to kind of look at, the supply chains and where they're coming from and, what's the actual environmental credentials. And, we started using some hempcretes and, kind of good recycled metals and, recyclable materials and trying to move away from noxious, paints and, getting low VO2, all the this is nerdy technical stuff, but we realise that we've got the broad ethos, and now our next step of our evolution is how do we start to kind of really understand, like what we're specifying and how we're putting in, and starting to change things from that way.
And also kind of making that the guidelines. It's like it's a big leap, and it's like a confident step to go into your designs and say, yeah, you've got lots of money, and we'd love to build whatever it is you're building, but these are the materials we have to use for these reasons. Like, not everyone's there yet. So I think that we are, like we were talking about this earlier, we're all still kind of on that trajectory of finding people who understand it and get it. But the more the knowledge is out there, the more confident you can then be to just say, you know what, there's no other option. These are the materials that we use. This is the way we have to go because we have to save the planet.
Or the more potato heads there are, the more you can go. Just go spend 2 nights there, and you'll see it's not scary.
Yeah, well, that's it. We want to try and elevate the material so people want it, versus saying, "Oh, sorry, you can't have that one, but we can give you this one. It's not quite as good, but it's sustainable."
Yeah,
I think that's not the way to make change. I think we have to inspire, elevate the product, elevate the material, so people actually want it and see it as a new luxury. It's like natural material, recycled material. It is that is the new luxury versus something that's super toxic or so.
But I think that's
how do we get there to that awareness?
Yeah, I think that's also reflected in the studio's designs as well. Like, they always feel like they have a sense of place within the landscape, and that almost aesthetically is like your first hit. If you can see a design that kind of feels like it lives and breathes the space that it's in, then it makes sense that when you walk through the door, that kind of energy continues and that feeling continues. And I think that's certainly something that you can see with the studio's designs more and more now.
So the sense of belonging within the local landscape.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and that was a big piece that came out of the regenerative tourism paper. So that's, if anyone's interested in what we're talking about, it's on our website under the Insights tab. But yeah, talking about like a sense of place, context, community, like how do you, I think we're all aware of, the places, the developments of the past, especially in tourism, where they'd build a hotel next to a village, and, the hotel would be sitting there and serving fries, and people are, by the pool, and you could literally be anywhere in the world, compared to places like this or other places we know where, there's a real sense of, Balinese culture and, present hot button stories about kind of lack or there's loss of identity, or the river spirit and waste, and there's just all these amazing things where you're getting these authentic, local, contextually based experiences that help inform and kind of just give life and energy to the experience and to the place. And I think I just think the world's moved away from those sorts of things. And maybe another interesting piece from our research says that Gen Y travel decisions are now 80% made on sustainability. So 80% of all travel decisions by people, by Gen Y and below, like purpose, authenticity, sustainability is what they're looking at. Tourism contributes 8% to global greenhouse emissions, and it's going to rise by 150% in the next 30 years. So I think there's buying power that's coming, and there's a problem, and we've got, so our whole thing is like, how do we turn tourism into a force for good? People are still going to get on planes, travel to all sorts of places all around the world. How do we make sure that the dollars they spend, the places they visit, are enhanced by that movement rather than diminished?
Yeah, I think supporting, as you said, supporting local communities. People do want that sense of locality. They don't want to come here and just feel like they could be anywhere in the world. So I think definitely looking into that, what's available locally. I mean, we're so blessed to be in Bali, where there's unlimited amounts of supremely talented craftspeople and materials, and there's a lot of amazing things here. And you guys are also doing projects here in Indonesia, right? You've got a studio here.
We do, yes.
What are you guys up to? Over this part of the world.
Yeah, so we did a hotel here about 4 years ago called The Ting up in the north in Tejukula, and that was the sort of start of the story up here. It was with a friend of mine I've known for 20 years, a local Balinese architect and operator. And that we're lucky that did very well and sort of put us on the map a bit. But then through COVID and just through other things, we just kind of took our time with it, and we've only now recently started re-establishing ourselves up here. So we've got a full-time staff member, we've got a staff member, we've got a partner office, and we've got sort of two main projects we're looking at, one on Sumba and one on Lombok. But, you know, we just want to do things the right way up here. We want to sort of, you know, just come in humbly, respectfully, you know, understand people, understand the market, and we just want to do good work.
But interestingly, both those projects, you know, the ones that we're working on the two islands, are underpinned by everything that we've talked about, you know, the ethics of doing things well. And funnily enough, on one of our last trips, we went to site, and it's the first time that we've been to site in a long time, and this is on Lombok, and we're walking around, and our client was showing us everything, and there was like the organic gardens, that was the first thing that they established. There was the English school, that was the first one of the other things that they established, and there was all these things that were going on that they had just done because they're good people, and we were like, this is the coolest thing that's going on, you know, of this project. Why are you not talking about it? It was just something that really, like, it was almost like a moment of comfort for us, because everybody wants to, like, design cool things in Bali, right? Like, that's like a lot of architects' dream, you know, like, but to work with people who are inherently doing the things that we believe in, and we didn't even know that they were doing it.
Well, and they didn't know as well.
They didn't know either.
It wasn't part of their promotion or their brochure
No.
or anything, but it was, so they like a nursery, an organic garden, a kid. So they're putting 13,000 meals a week out into the community. The school was open to anyone to come and, you know, visit and improve numeracy and literacy. They're remediating the land, you know, with all kind of local endemic species. And, you know, before they'd built a single house or done anything on the whole development, this was the first thing they did, because they knew that, you know, they wanted to be good neighbours, good, you know, community members, good, you know, just integrate and ingratiate themselves with the people that have been there before.
Well, it sounds like good people, you know, doing good things.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite often people do that, and they're not marketing experts or promotional people. They're just doing it, and it's great to stumble across those, you know.
Yeah, which is just the whole concept of legacy, right? You know, I think we're starting to, as a group, I think we're starting to understand the idea of legacy, because that ties into sustainability and, you know, what our place on Earth, and, you know, what we're doing and how we're leaving things. And I think everyone is now moving along to that longer view, you know, understanding that doing the right thing, like matching people, planet, and profit, you know, you can actually kind of, you know, create purposeful, you know, successful businesses.
Yeah, that's interesting, the longer view, because we've been in such a short-term mentality over the past generation, and I would say if you look at sort of Indigenous culture, it's planning for the next 7 generations. That's okay, we'll build a bridge. How will this be in 7 generations? That's how far they think ahead. You know,
Amazing.
We've completely lost that in modern culture, which is such a shame.
I know, and it's exhausting. Like, the short-term mentality is so exhausting for everybody. Like that, constant change, like change of ideas, change of concept, it's like it's a lot to take in every facet of your life. Everywhere you look, it's happening. So if we can pull back from that, take a breath, and like really look at the long-term plan and like do it strategically. You know, everyone hates that word, but like it's got its place.
Yeah, I think just not rushing, just taking things slowly and letting it form naturally versus like forcing it, you know.
Yeah, well, there's like, you know, the houses that are being built, like in Perth, we have a horrible problem with sprawl, you know, that we just keep building single houses out to eternity, basically, and these houses have like a 20-year lifespan, you know, that's it, they're gone, you know, compare them to the houses of the past. And there's another stat, and I'm trying not to be too boring with this stuff, but I think it's really interesting, is that for 2050, 80% of the buildings we need for 2050 are already built. So the future isn't going to be, this is for all our metro centres, so the future isn't going to be about new, exciting stuff. It's going to be how do we reuse what we already have. So that's, you know, legacy, long-term mentality. City of London has just made it so that if you have something in central London, you have to prove it can't be retained before you can demolish it. So that now the default state is work with what you have rather than assume you can knock it over and start again.
Yeah, it's such a shame when you see these beautiful, iconic buildings just getting demolished, and then you think, who made that decision? And they replace it with this cladded, like,
Thing.
really, like,
Yeah.
it's not timeless at all what they replace with. And
Heartbreaking.
it's almost like you don't know what you've got, you know?
No.
These are iconic. I mean, even in the UK, there's some, like, I grew up in Gateshead, and there was like a brutalist car park, which is the Get Carter car park. I don't know if you saw the movie.
No.
It was such an iconic building, and I said you could have done so much with that, and it ended up getting demolished.
Yeah, and it's just like taste. You know, taste circles around. It'll come back. You know, like brutalism might be a thing in 10 years' time. For me, I love it now.
Well, it's,
you know,
it's
like,
timeless, you know,
yeah.
and it's there. It's going to last a long time. But why knock it down? Just do something new with it. And
But this is the bigger problem, right? Where you can go crazy trying to change the world and get angry about all these things that are wrong, or you can create your own little pocket of excellence, control what you can control, and show people how it could be. And that's exactly what you've done here.
No, definitely, yeah, definitely. Just sort of opening the possibilities of solutions. How we can reimagine. Waste, or I mean, there's no such thing as waste, but the material that we discard, and run an operation, with substantial amount of people and do it in the right way.
Yeah.
And how's things over in Australia then? Because we've definitely seen the momentum, I would say, like here in Indonesia, starting to sort of build up with people getting a bit more into this, or a bit more aware now of the issues. People are looking into better solutions. Like how are things over in Perth and Australia? Are you seeing this movement building, or is it still a lot of work to be done?
Perth feels like a different beast to the rest of Australia, to be honest.
I've never been to Perth, so I can't comment, but
there's a few people that get it. But Nic's probably the better one to answer that question. But yeah, I mean, I feel like Perth is a few steps behind when it comes to all this stuff. So being a thought leader and a champion for it is a wonderful and privileged place to be. But I think the rest of Australia is kind of
we're there's horrible things that happen everywhere, but there's a lot of really good, robust conversation happening around it, and things, good examples that are really starting to show people how things can be done better. I want to shout out, I've got a friend, Ross, who runs an initiative called A New Normal, and he put together a proposal that is how do you change, this was initially in Melbourne, how do you turn Melbourne from a consumer into an energy producer? And it was a 10-year plan that basically said, if we did these 10 initiatives and we rolled them out, through policy across everything, fully costed, fully data driven, there's nothing sexy about it. He says it's just like, just do 10 unsexy things really well and you get one really sexy outcome. And we've now been able to bring that to Perth, and we're launching that next month. So we're using, 10 of Perth's best architects. We're tackling, 10 big environmental initiatives and proposals, putting a report together and saying, like, if we wanted to change this city, here's how we do it. So we'll see what happens with that.
That's interesting. Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah, a new normal. If you want to look it up.
I'll check it out. And what else have you guys seen in the space, like from an innovation perspective, like globally? Is there anything else that you think is exciting, or anything new worth mentioning that you've seen that might really help the cause?
Well, the hotel that you're working on in Margaret River is
that's fun.
A good example. It's not like a global thing, but it's a local relevant example.
So that's with this same consultant, Ross, and Finding Infinity. So we're doing Australia's first net positive hotel. So it'll be net neutral or carbon neutral in construction, but then carbon positive, energy positive in operations as well. And so that's central Margaret River. If anyone knows, Margaret River is a wine region 3 hours south of Perth. It's in the centre of town, and it's just this nice little adaptive reuse of a couple of the first examples of rammed earth buildings in Margaret River, with a timber CLT 3-storey hotel block at the back, and a sort of lobby and lounge and other bits and pieces. But that's starting, that's on the way, so that'll be completed in the next year and a bit, hopefully, fingers crossed. But that's super exciting. That's with great clients, great consultants, great idea, much needed. Something that we're sure we'll be proud of when done.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I love rammed earth, like the texture and the colours you get from it. It's such a beautiful looking material.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, and what colour? Like, is it a specific colour of the soil, or how is that?
Yeah, so it was used with that Margaret River West Australian soil. So it's got kind of the bit of a pinky, reddy coral to it, colour.
A bit like this. Not this. That's the one ceiling outside.
No, like your
Outside the outside.
like your walls near the
the
jungle.
Barney calendar.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And do you guys like look at the interior aspect as well? Do you do the furniture and various interior aspects, and what sort of materials do you look at when doing that?
Again, that's sort of that material specification stuff. That's the thing we're now trying to really get good at. Yeah. Like just being here is just pinged a whole bunch of ideas on going back and reviewing a few of the projects and seeing how we can kind of level up again. So we've got a friend, Ren Tapley, who's got a company called Future Materials, and she builds out supply chains for highly sustainable materials, and that's just like a great repository for when you need to specify good stuff. We sort of try and work with her or understand what they're doing there. But yeah, like furniture and those sorts of things is really just case by case.
Yeah, we had Max Lamb here last week. I don't know if you're familiar with his work.
Oh, the chair.
So we work a lot with Max. He's fantastic. He made our first plastic chair, and he's just the way he approaches it. It's just very unique, and kind of working very smartly. Like with one sheet, he's getting a chair plus all the things we need for the hotel.
Yeah, that was incredible to see.
It's such a zero waste approach. It's fantastic.
It felt
so
like
cool.
He's probably going to hate me for saying this, but those like cardboard push-out things that children have, where it's like one sheet and then you build the dolly or whatever it is that you're building. It kind of felt like that, and I was like, oh, but you just made like a really cool, sturdy, amazingly designed chair. But it kind of that's where my head went when I saw that. I was like, I love this. Like it's like pop out and go and put together, and there's nothing left behind.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I definitely learned a lot from him getting to work with him. He's just the way he thinks, and he's very, very deep thinker, and just the way he approaches design with sympathy, and he's just a really cool guy.
Because I love
Damn it.
I don't know. Hope next time. I love how they sit in the room as well. I think it's such a cool design. Maybe it's a bit incidental, but the room is so kind of it's got its own vibe and it's understated. Then you just get this one little pop, that kind of just sits there against the timber and kind of just invites you to kind of think a bit about it, like why is that like that? Kind of that big.
Yeah, so it's one thing we always try and do is kind of create a bit of a clash or a bit of a juxtaposition where you have something quite clean and you put in that object that really almost doesn't belong there, but it sort of does when you see it in the context.
Yeah.
So it's something we always try and play on,
Yeah.
Like the flower pot hats.
Yeah.
I love them.
So cool.
But they're like the accents. You look around and there's the accents and things. They belong. They very much belong, but like they're the object.
Yeah, great guys. And what's next for the studio then? So you mentioned a couple of the hotel projects you're working on. Is there any big developments other than the projects or content pieces that you're working on?
We're doing a multi-res building in Perth with a friend architecture studio in Melbourne called Breathe, who are Australia's most awarded sustainable architects, and they do these projects called Nightingales, which are triple bottom line housing projects that are trying to address the housing crisis. Like, how do we build houses for people, not for investors? So they build out these communities. They make sure they're highly sustainable, affordable, and socially kind of well considered. And they've done a bunch in Melbourne, and we partnered with them, and we've come over to Perth, and we're doing one which is super cool. We've got a bunch of social housing projects which we're really excited by as well, because they are starting to weave all these ideas through, and our clients are saying that this needs to become the new model for how they approach housing, which is that's really kind of heartwarming. And then just super excited to just get into the work up here as well, and see the opportunities as they come, and start to get a bit of momentum, and keep the good work and going, and keep meeting the good people.
Be in Bali more.
Right. Yeah, so you guys are carbon neutral, B Corp, obviously won a bunch of awards. For any sort of young companies or young designers coming through that are really kind of wanting to pivot that direction, have you got any words of wisdom or any advice that you can give to people on how they can sort of get on that path and try and make a little bit of difference in the world?
Yeah, it's just do it. It's don't be scared. I got a great quote, which was, people are always scared about like finding a niche, because they think it's like you're in a room with a whole bunch of doors, and you think if you pick one door, then it's at the detriment of all the other doors. But the truth is that when you walk through that door, there's a whole bunch of more doors through there. So it's being intentional and deliberative, and it doesn't have to be, just whatever you believe in, just conviction, and do that. And that's, once you find your purpose, once you find your tribe, then, once you're in flow, then things are great.
That's great advice. Cool, guys. Well, thank you very much. It's a fascinating talk, and great to hear about what you're doing. Keep up the great work, and look forward to hanging out by the pool, maybe have a drink and
Totally.
catch up. Yeah, awesome, guys.
Thank you for having
Thanks
us.
It's been awesome.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Cheers, man.
It's been great.
Thanks, Dan.
Awesome.